Welcome back. In our previous episode, we examined the formation of Israel's community identity through the divine revelation at Mount Sinai. We discovered how this epical event created the foundational dogma that established Jewish identity as a chosen people. Today, we'll explore the extraordinary global impact of this community, how Jewish civilization became a transformative force that fundamentally altered the course of world history. This analysis will reveal the mechanisms through which a small nation created intellectual and cultural frameworks that continue to shape modern civilization, from capitalism to psychology to the discovery of the Americas. We cannot overlook the significance of Israel's identity for the entire civilized world. The Jewish people, professing one God, created a unique written culture during the 4th and 5th centuries BC. This included world history, legal codes, chronicles, psalms, wisdom literature, poetry, prose, and political thought. These texts became what we know as the Old Testament, the Hebrew Bible. Its pages contain profound reflections on universal principles and fundamental existence, on human relationships, on morality, ethical standards, and spiritual aspirations. Entirely new concepts, ideas, attitudes, and values appeared in these writings, formulating a fundamentally different approach to political relations. All this constituted dogmatically determined constructs of Jewish mentality, making possible systematic study and comparative mental research. Here's what makes this historically remarkable. Jewish people didn't simply develop these ideas in isolation. They created systematic frameworks that became foundational for subsequent civilizations. Consider this. The first Christians were Jews. The apostles and evangelists were Jews. The initial opponents of Christianity were also Jews. This internal Jewish debate about the nature of the Messiah fundamentally shaped what became Christianity. The religious, moral, ethical, philosophical, legal, and political ideas of Judaism profoundly influenced the founder of Islam, Muhammad. Islamic civilization drew extensively from Jewish legal frameworks, prophetic traditions, and monotheistic theology. But the influence extends far beyond religious systems. Ideas such as capitalism, Marxism, Freudianism, pacifism, and feminism were developed and promoted throughout the Western world, often through Jewish intellectual networks. Consider the world historical significance of Christopher Columbus's discoveries. This outstanding Jewish explorer opened the American lands to modern geographical understanding and political expansion. Columbus's expeditions contributed to revising medieval worldviews, creating colonial empires and radically changing global political structures. This single individual fundamentally altered world geography and economics. Prominent Jewish intellectuals, particularly in France, played central roles in developing postmodernist ideology during the late 20th century, characterized by faith in progress and rational capability. What explains this pattern of disproportionate influence? The answer lies in understanding the unique structure of Jewish community organization. Judaism represents an exceptional case where God, according to Jewish belief, chose a people for himself who became a unified entity. Typically, peoples choose their deity through rulers and political leadership. In Judaism, God binds himself to this people through formal agreement and specific promises. A unique form of covenant emerged between the divine and human community, as entities capable of systematic negotiation. Moreover, this represents a communal agreement, establishing shared responsibility of Jews before God. Significantly, the relationship between God and individuals was secondary. Jewish identity was fundamentally communal rather than individual. Jewish individualism could manifest primarily through personal piety, as encouraged in biblical literature, especially the Book of Psalms, traditionally attributed to King David. The dogmatically established concept of a unified chosen people required complete subordination of private motivations to community interests. Individual goals remained secondary to shared purposes. During political emancipation periods, statements like those of revolutionary Countess Clermont-Tonnerre, delivered December 23, 1789 in the French National Assembly, created significant tension. He declared, "Jews as a nation have no rights. Jews as individuals have all rights." This formula challenged Jewish identity for the next 2 centuries. This created a fundamental dilemma. How could Jews maintain communal identity while participating as individuals in broader European society? Within corporate identity frameworks, beyond contributing practical benefits to the community, each person bore responsibility for the honor and dignity of fellow believers. Strict care and protection from harm was prescribed as fundamental obligation. Even religious leadership faced consequences for harming fellow community members, because such actions were understood as denying the Lord's existence. This institution of communal responsibility significantly influenced the formation and content of Jewish national mentality. In Jewish thinking, individual identity was always considered less important than national identity, with major historical events understood as affecting the entire people of Israel. This created unprecedented solidarity across geographical boundaries. Here's a crucial insight. Jewish people were chosen not for righteousness. This selection didn't imply that Israel possessed superior qualities compared to surrounding Mediterranean civilizations, Egypt, Greece, Babylon, and others. The prophets constantly called Jews to repentance, accusing them of sins, stubbornness and disobedience, stiffness of neck, and finally, moral decline and apostasy. Selection was connected exclusively with receiving the Torah, not merely as written text, but as a complete way of life. This law was given so the people would live according to divine principles always and everywhere. H. G. Wells expressed a profound insight on one occasion. From the beginning, Jerusalem served as the Jewish capital only nominally. Their real capital, at the center of their existence, was this book of books. This is why Jews represented a completely new phenomenon, a people unified from diverse elements by nothing other than the power of written instruction. The written word became the foundation of Jewish civilization, not just religious texts, but systematic legal codes, historical chronicles, philosophical treatises, and poetic literature. This created something unprecedented in human history. While other ancient peoples were united by territory or tribal ancestry, Jews were defined by shared commitment to written instruction and interpretation of transcendent law. This emphasis on written tradition rather than territorial boundaries created extraordinary adaptability and resilience across centuries of dispersion. In our next episode, we'll examine what might seem paradoxical: how this selection, not for righteousness, actually created extraordinary resilience and adaptability, and why emphasizing community identity over individual achievement proved so effective historically. We'll explore specific mechanisms through which Jewish communities maintained internal cohesion while achieving success in foreign environments, and how this pattern continues influencing modern geopolitics. If you're fascinated by how written tradition creates lasting civilizational advantages, subscribe to the channel. In the comments, share examples of how written knowledge systems influence community achievement in other societies. See you in the next episode, where we'll uncover the paradox of selection and its practical consequences for Jewish survival and influence. Welcome back. Our previous episode explored how Jewish civilization transformed world history through systematic written culture and intellectual frameworks. We saw how ideas developed within Jewish communities shaped capitalism, major religious movements, and global exploration. Today we'll examine what might seem paradoxical: how Jewish identity was explicitly established not for righteousness. Yet this apparent limitation actually created extraordinary resilience and adaptability. This analysis will reveal why emphasizing community responsibility over individual merit proved so effective historically and continues influencing modern geopolitics. Jewish individualism could manifest primarily through personal piety, as encouraged in biblical literature, especially the Book of Psalms, traditionally attributed to King David. The established concept of a unified chosen people required complete subordination of private motivations to community interests. During political emancipation periods, revolutionary Count S. Clermont-Tonnerre's words, delivered December 23, 1789 in the French National Assembly, created profound tension that lasted centuries. He declared, "Jews as a nation have no rights. Jews as individuals have all rights." This formula created a fundamental dilemma. How could Jews maintain community identity while participating as individuals in broader European society? This challenge would shape Jewish experience for the next 2 centuries. Within corporate identity frameworks, beyond contributing practical benefits to the community, each person bore responsibility for fellow believers' honor and dignity. Strict care and protection from harm was prescribed as fundamental obligation. Even the high priest faced punishment for harming fellow community members, because such actions were understood as denying the Lord's existence itself. This institution of communal responsibility significantly influenced the formation and content of Jewish national mentality. In Jewish thinking, individual identity was always considered secondary to national identity, with major historical events understood as affecting the entire people of Israel. This created unprecedented solidarity across geographical boundaries and historical periods. Here's the crucial insight that explains Jewish resilience. The Jewish people were chosen not for righteousness. This selection didn't imply that Israel possessed superior moral qualities compared to surrounding Mediterranean civilizations, Egypt, Greece, Babylon, and others. This becomes evident when we examine prophetic literature. The prophets constantly called Jews to repentance, accusing them of persistent sins, stubbornness and disobedience, stiffness of neck, and repeated moral decline and apostasy. The Hebrew prophets were remarkably critical of their own people. They didn't present Jews as naturally superior beings, but as a frequently rebellious and spiritually inconsistent community requiring constant correction. Selection was connected exclusively with receiving the Torah, not merely as written text, but as a complete way of life. This law was given so the people would live according to divine principles always and everywhere, regardless of their moral performance. H.G. Wells expressed a profound insight about this phenomenon. From the beginning, Jerusalem served as the Jewish capital only nominally. Their real capital, at the center of their existence, was this book of books. This is why Jews represented a completely new historical phenomenon, a people unified from diverse elements by nothing other than the power of written instruction, not by territory, ethnicity, or moral superiority, but by shared commitment to textual tradition. This created remarkable adaptability. Jewish communities scattered throughout the world, living in many countries as absolute minorities, identified themselves exclusively as a chosen people. They possessed systematically determined and therefore unconditional tribal solidarity, internal cohesion, and strong immunity to external influences. This internal trust and external distinctiveness, as well as nomadic mediation as a way of life, according to University of California, Berkeley professor Hugh Slezkine, helped not only survive, but succeed in alien environments. Alienation itself became their profession. Isolation served as a means of maintaining distinctiveness. Loyalty concerned community members and their shared destiny rather than territorial governments. A characteristic feature was that they lived in foreign lands according to their own charter, counting on business ties with Jewish communities in distant countries and cities. The morning prayer declares, "Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who has not made me a Gentile." The principle of incarnation of God's personality in a unified chosen people affirms the significance of a special community identity in Judaism. When the entire nation is elevated, each member also acquires dignity through association. Even concepts of freedom and immortality are communal rather than individual concepts for Jews. For thousands of years, the most important quality of Israel's identity has been combining internal cohesion with external distinctiveness. The stronger the cohesion, the greater the distinctiveness. The greater the distinctiveness, the stronger the cohesion. The best guarantee of both is ideological and uncompromising family solidarity, reinforced by a keen sense of divine selection and cultural distinction. The alienated mentality of Jewish communities scattered across continents became a mechanism for forming a community network model of national political integration. As they explored different regions, Jews became successful businessmen, bankers, financial sponsors, and entrepreneurs. In many countries worldwide, they entered circles of influential ministers, deputies, administrators, advisors, media figures, political consultants, lawyers, lobbyists, publishers, journalists, science and culture leaders, entertainment industry creators. By forming corporate network structures globally, they became a highly influential part of international political leadership. In the age of alienation, they are the most experienced displaced persons. In the age of specialization, the most skilled professionals. In the age of capital, the most enterprising entrepreneurs. In the age of globalism, the most influential politicians. This systematic approach determines monolithic subjectivity, national corporate kinship, communal autonomy, family solidarity, internal cohesion, flexible political adaptability and creativity, historical continuity, and integrity of all Jews as a unified identity of Israel across spatial and temporal dimensions. Faith as a prior form of knowledge and understanding of material and metaphysical reality has always been and remains one of the deep foundations of their mentality. The paradox becomes clear. By acknowledging they were chosen not for righteousness, Jewish communities avoided the trap of moral complacency that destroyed other civilizations. Instead of relying on inherent superiority, they developed systematic approaches to education, commerce, and political organization. This humility paradoxically created extraordinary capability. Rather than assuming natural advantages, Jewish communities built institutional advantages through disciplined commitment to written tradition, communal responsibility, and adaptive learning. In our next episode, we'll examine how these community networks evolved into global systems of influence. We'll explore the specific mechanisms through which Jewish diaspora communities created what we might call the first truly international political and economic networks. How did scattered minorities become influential majorities in key sectors? What can other communities learn from this model of distributed yet coordinated organization? If you're interested in how community organization creates lasting political advantages, subscribe to the channel. In comments, share examples of other communities that achieved influence through systematic organization rather than numerical dominance. See you next episode, where we'll uncover how Jewish networks became a global elite.